Hi, welcome to Personal Finance and Coffee Podcast. I'm your host, Gabriella, and we're going to talk all about finances because each and every one of us is the CEO of our money. No more waiting for someone else to figure it out. We're going to get hands-on and get our money in order. Welcome. On today's episode, we'll be talking about all things emergency funds. Now, what's an emergency fund? Why should you have one? That's what we're discussing today. Where should you put the money? How much should it be? I'm your host, Gabriella. So, first things first, what's an emergency fund? An emergency fund is like an amount of money that you set aside to bail you out when unexpected things happen in your life. For example, job loss, delay in receiving maybe salary, medical bills, all those things that you cannot plan for. That is what the emergency fund is for. And events like, for example, COVID-19, that would have been a scenario where you would have used your emergency fund if, for example, you were laid off at the time. That's what the emergency fund is for. It reduces the chances of you going out to borrow to solve that problem because you're able to access the money. That is what an emergency fund is. Why you should have an emergency fund? To bail you out so you reduce chances of getting into debt. And also, it gives you peace of mind. You sleep better at night when you know that I'm covered to a certain extent if things come up. It gives you peace of mind and also protects your investments. If you, for example, you have an investment, it could be land somewhere, it could be a business maybe, it could be shares, it could be wherever you've invested your money and it needs time to grow. When you're stuck, you then don't have to go and sell that property to solve your problem because you're able to solve it with the cash that you have from the emergency fund. So those are among the reasons that make an emergency fund important. Now, when you're in a tight spot and you have debts and you're like, now I already have debts, I'm in negatives, why should I save money, yet I would use the money to pay off the debts? Alongside paying off the debt, why is it important to put the emergency fund in place even though you're still in debt? Because if you have something come up, for example, a child is sick or a loved one, a family, a parent, yourself, you will have to pay a medical bill. Now, if you don't have that emergency fund, because you've been paying the debt, you will get further into debt. You'll have to borrow from a friend. You'll have to borrow from somewhere to solve that problem. And then it's kind of demoralizing because you're like, the cycle is not ending. You're like, I'm just paying off now, I have to go back. So the way to slowly break that chain is to start building up that saving. Because you may earn more than you need to live, or you may earn less than you need to live, which puts you in red. But anyway, you count how much you need to live, and then you multiply by 3 or 6 months. Let me slowly save money until I get to 500,000, and this 500,000 will not be touched. One, you could not have foreseen it. You don't expect it. Two, it involves you and your immediate family. If you're married, your children, perhaps you can extend to your parents. That's all. Someone calling you to bail them out is not an emergency for you. Because if your friend calls you and you use your emergency fund to bail them out, when you have an emergency and they've not paid you back, now you're in a fix. So that is not what the emergency fund is for. So set an amount. It could be 500,000, it could be 1 million, depending on what you feel works for you and your income. That should be your first goal of saving. You have that money, it will help you sleep better at night, and it will also keep you from getting back into debts. Set the amount. The next question that most people ask about emergency funds where do you keep this money? Do you put it on your usual bank account? Do you put it on mobile money savings? Now, where you choose to put the money is really up to you. But there are some guidelines I would recommend. One, it shouldn't be too easy to access, like having it on the same account where you transact every day. That is very tempting. It's very easy to spend it in day-to-day living. So you don't make it too easy. Don't put your mobile money. Next time you don't have data, you just buy data with your emergency fund. So it shouldn't be too easy to access, but also don't lock it up in long term uh, long term investments like bonds, or it shouldn't be too difficult to access, or accessing it shouldn't cost you money. Some examples of where you can put it. You can have a different current account. You can have a different current account where this account is purposely for your emergency fund. Every time you get some kind of money, you put it there. You have unexpected income, put it there, and it slowly grows. And you train yourself to know that I only touch that account when I have a true emergency. That is one place. The second place you can also consider is putting it in a unit trust. Now, a unit trust makes it possible. A unit trust is like a money market account. Okay, this is where, for example, Britam has, ICA has, UAP has. You put your money there, and then it earns some interest. When you need that money, you can request for it, and then they send it back to you within 1 to 2 days. So you can easily access it without penalties, and it will also grow with time because it earns interest. Basically, these money market funds, they receive money from very many people, and then they get that money and they buy government bonds and bills, and they get that money and also put it in shares. That's why you're able to access the money. But it's not as fixed, or as it does not have implications in the same way it would take you to sell a share or sell a bond, where there are some charges that come up if you do so. All this we shall talk about in another episode about investing. But a money market, a unit trust is another place where you can put an emergency fund. So we've addressed why you need it, where to put it. The thing about having an emergency fund is that it takes discipline, that you won't wake up one day and say, now I can do it, I'm going to. It takes a while. In the same way that it took us time, all of us, to learn how to write, it took us time to learn how to walk. Don't expect it to click instantly. It's a habit. You will build up the account, have the money, something will happen. You will have a bad day when you're emotional and you're like, it's been a long day at work, and you're like, what is the whole point? And you just go and spend the money. Don't give up on yourself, because that is also part of the process of learning. That has happened. Learn your lessons. Look at it as learning how learning how you react with money based on your emotions, based on the situations, and take the lesson and then try again. Just every time you spend if it happens and you spend the money, just give it a try. Don't feel like it has no point. Over time, if you keep reflecting on, for example, you can have the emergency fund, and then Christmas comes up, you have to go to the village, there's no money. You're like, let me use my emergency fund to solve this Christmas situation. Fine, you use the money. But now you will be aware that Christmas is an expense that is needed. So over time, you will start to say, okay, let me start slowly saving towards Christmas, so that I don't have to touch the emergency fund next year, Christmas time. So anyway, those are some of the things that you keep aware. But the first few times that I tried, this is what happened to me. I would blow the money. I personally am an emotional spender. One day I'll be excited, and then I'll just have a YOLO moment. I'll go to some restaurant, eat nice food. I'm like, you only live once, because I'm feeling excited. Another day I'll be feeling down, so I'll also spend money. So those are things I've come to learn about myself, and I'm still in the process. So I encourage you, as you're building your emergency fund, give yourself grace and don't give up. The next question you may ask yourself is, where am I going to get this money from to put in this emergency fund? Now, there are times when we receive money that we didn't expect. Now you will have a place to put, you're like, okay, from today going forward, anytime I receive money that I didn't expect, I will put it in the emergency fund, because you weren't expecting that money. That means prior you had planned as if you don't have it. Another place you can get emergency fund, you can get money to put, is from, if you have a business, you can put it there. Just try to look out. When you make a budget, you can have a budget in your budget. When you're planning for your money, have an item emergency fund. That is the preferred method, because you will know that every month I'm putting, for example, my 50k in the emergency fund. By the end of the year, you'll have your 600k, which in the past you've not had. If you're expecting a large lump sum of money, maybe you're expecting a deal to come through, get a portion of that money, put it there. So those are some of the ways to get money, to find ways of getting money and putting it in the emergency fund. But as you start working on finances, or if you've been working on finances and this is one area that you are just not sure of, I hope this podcast has thrown some light, and I encourage you to keep at it. Yeah. Thanks for listening to the end of the podcast. I really do appreciate your time. I hope you found value in this episode. Share with your loved ones and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, you are the CEO of your money. No one else is.